he is going to try to stay in office?
What I've noticed, what we all have experienced, I hope we're absorbing in our souls, because we're talking about the soul of America, is I don't think he takes himself seriously, but he iterates. He throws things out, and he plays with it, and he sees how people react, and it manifests, meaning once a mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. And that's my concern. The more we're talking about this, and we need to be, look at what he's doing with masked agents. Look what he's doing federalizing the guard. Look what he's doing to intimidate and voter suppression. Look what he's going to do with the DOJ. Look what he's trying to do to rig the elections. North Carolina, Missouri, down there next Florida, not just in Texas. Look what he's doing in terms of the $230 million that apparently is from his DOJ. All the pardoning, all this great grift, the biggest, most corrupt administration in history. Not just the $400 million plane, but the $1 billion of your tax money as we're cutting food stamps to pay for the damn plane, so he can take that toy home with his foundation when he's 93 or whatever he's done with his fourth or fifth term. I'm deeply concerned about it. And guys like Bannon, they're not screwing around.
Boy. So we got to talk about the cackling heads on The View, who apparently have heard the backlash over the fact that they essentially refuse to have any conservative voices on the show, right? So in response to the backlash, they are having alleged turncoat Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show during Election Day coming up next week.
People in Washington are starting to say, my constituents, they're starting to remember why they're there. Yeah. Because you don't get there without people putting you there and remembering that those same people can pull you out of there. And that's why when you said Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm happy to say that she's going to be here on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's election day.
Because
it happens to be election day.
And I don't know how many things we agree on, but I know the one thing that she and I and all of us at this table agree on is this should not be affecting the American people.
Yeah, so we're going to see what Marjorie, alleged turncoat Greene, says on The View. My gut feeling tells me that they wouldn't be having her on the show unless they knew that she was going to go on the show and start trashing Republicans with Democrat Party talking points. Again, we're going to see, right? We're going to see what Marjorie Taylor Greene says. I hope that she goes on The View and she actually takes conservative stances on immigration, healthcare, right? All of the issues that she seems to be concerned about, the Republican position on. I'm hoping that she actually represents the conservative pro-Trump point of view. But again, we're going to see, right? We're going to see. Until then, we have to react to The View and this episode about Gavin Newsom claiming that the midterm elections could be rigged. Now, obviously, The View and the Democrat Party and the liberal media, these individuals were boohoo whining and crying about how you can't claim that elections are rigged. You can't claim that elections are stolen. That makes you an election denier. That makes you an insurrectionist. That makes you a bad person, right? You're a threat to democracy. Now, all of a sudden, Democrats, again, like Gavin Newsom, they're running around claiming that the elections are going to be rigged.
I want to ask you about something you said. You said Democrats, there are no election deniers on our side of the aisle. You said that back in January. But recently, you've been using the term rigged elections in reference to the upcoming midterms. Democrats were appalled when President Trump used language like that. How do you justify using that now? Doesn't that undermine faith for voters you need to show up?
No, I've been using that term in the context of Donald Trump's unprecedented effort to gerrymander congressional maps in a partisan fashion all across the country in order to rig the midterm elections and deny the ability of the American people to actually decide who should be in the majority as it relates to the House of Representatives.
Democrats are also going through gerrymandering and redistricting.
No. Well, Democrats are going to push back aggressively to make sure that we have fair maps across the country, not partisan gerrymandering, which Republicans have initiated in state after state after state.
And The View, they're cheering this on, right? Because once again, the liberal media and the Democrats, they're giant hypocrites, right? Rules for thee, not for me. And in this episode, another turncoat, okay, this is not even alleged turncoat, actual turncoat, Alyssa Farah Griffin, she's going to confront the cackling hens on their hypocrisy of claiming that the election is rigged after boohoo-ing and crying about Republicans claiming that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen. Now Democrats are making the same claim with basically no evidence whatsoever to back it up. The reason why Democrats are claiming this is because they're afraid they're going to lose. Okay, they're not doing as well as they should be doing right now going into the 2026 midterms, and we're going to see on this election day coming up how well they're going to do. If Democrats do not sweep, that will be a loss for the Democrats. Okay, I want you guys to understand how to interpret this election, okay? They need to sweep. Democrats need to win basically every race. If they lose one of these major races, like for example, if they lose out in New Jersey, then that's going to be a big deal, right? That's going to be a bad sign for Democrats going into the midterm. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
California Governor and MAGA arch enemy Gavin Newsom, and very handsome Gavin Newsom, is ringing alarm bells about Trump's plan to send federal election monitors to California on Election Day. Let's watch this clip.
I really am scared to death about what's going on in this country. I really believe it is code red. It's 5 alarm fires. We won't have a country. We won't have an election that's fair and free if we don't stand up. We won't. There will not be a fair and free election. It will be a Putin election. Was it 87% or is it 87.3%? That's what Trump wants.
Well, he's worried. He's worried. And are you as worried about it as he is? Or is he just going to make more Americans distrust the election process like Trump has been doing since he lost in 2020?
I think more likely than fraud will be disincentivizing voting in a democracy, which is the currency of a democracy. But right now, in 2024, we had 65% of the population that showed up at the polls, which is actually pretty good for this country because in the midterms, which can right now be very important, only 47% of Americans show up at the polls. People fought hard for those rights to vote, and we already don't have people showing up at our polls. We don't need to plant seeds. You always go out, you always vote. Let the rest be determined as it plays out, because when fraud was claimed last time, not one judge in this country saw any proof of any fraud. So by planting these seeds, you're already taking a public that's lost trust in everything and saying your vote doesn't matter. That's the fastest way to affect an election.
I see.
Yeah, so I'll say one thing about what Sarah Haynes just said, right? She basically is presenting an argument that the more people that vote, the better. I strongly disagree with that, right? I think that we have way too many people in this country voting, and Democrats want as many people to vote as possible. This is why they don't want any type of election integrity, okay? They don't want any type of voter ID because they know the more idiots that vote, the more likely they are to vote Democrat. This is why you have Kamala Harris in interviews saying the quiet part out loud, which is that Democrats want more people who are uninformed voting. Like, for example, they want 16-year-olds voting. Well, why is that? Because, again, when you promise young people free stuff, of course they're going to go out and vote for it, not understanding the consequences of what comes with free stuff.
I think we should reduce voting age to 16. I'll tell you why. So, Gen Z, they're age about 13 through 27. They've only known the climate crisis. They missed substantial parts of their education because of the pandemic. If they're in high school or college, especially in college, it is very likely that whatever they've chosen as their major for study may not result in an affordable wage. They've coined the term climate anxiety to describe fear of not only being able to buy a home, but that fear will be wiped out by extreme weather, but fear of having children. It is expected that Gen Z will have 10 to 12 jobs in their lifetime. They are a larger number than boomers. They're a specific generation of people who are going to impact our nation and the world. And I think we must invest in them, but I think that they are rightly impatient with a lot of what is the tradition of leadership right now.
Yeah, so again, that is not a good idea, right? We do not need more uninformed, naive young people who are susceptible to the socialist propaganda that Democrats are going to go full hog with, right? Because again, that's the easiest way to get the vote of an uninformed person, which is to tell them that the government is going to solve all their problems. Yeah, we don't need more of those people voting, but they want those people to vote. They want illegals to vote. They want as many people as possible who should not be voting to vote because, again, they're more likely to vote Democrat, okay? So, yeah, I actually strongly disagree with this idea that more people should vote. In fact, less people should vote, to be honest with you. Really, in an ideal world, net taxpayers and property owners should be the people who are actually voting in this country, to be honest with you.
See it differently because I think sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think that you need to speak truth to power and you need to expose what may be going on. And, you know, up to the election, Project 2025 was written. There was a game plan, and we kept on sounding the alarm. There's a game plan. There's a game plan. It's in writing. It's 90 pages. There's a Cliff Notes version. No one listened to that. You know what's happened since Trump was elected? Some of the policies outlined in Project 2025 are happening right now. Reshaping the federal bureaucracy, reducing the size and influence and empowering the executive branch, aggressively militarizing an approach to immigration, the use of active duty military personnel and National Guardsmen to assist in border security, a return to a more isolationist foreign policy, dismantling the Department of Education. It goes on and on and on. Everything he promised he would do, he did. And so when Gavin Newsom is saying, I am concerned about this, I think we need to listen. That's the problem with this country. We don't want to say the quiet part out loud. We don't want to challenge authority. We don't want to challenge authoritarianism. Silence, there's no place for silence when
Also,
the
can I
democracy is under attack.
I just want to say one thing. I don't think Gavin Newsom would be saying this if Donald Trump hadn't thrown in the gauntlet in the first place. It's not like he's doing it
right,
tit
but
for tat.
now it's becoming in vogue for every candidate to say it's probably rigged.
Yeah, but who started this?
But it doesn't matter. You don't win a bad idea with a bad idea. The point is,
well, I mean, who started it? Democrats started it because they've claimed that every election that they've lost is rigged since Bush, right? Since 2000, right? Let's be real. Who started this? Who are the people that claimed that the 2016 election was stolen and rigged by Vladimir Putin, by Russia, right? I mean, that was the whole Russia thing, which is that the election in 2016 was rigged against Hillary Clinton. It was stolen from Hillary Clinton by Trump and Putin. But Joy Behar is sitting here asking the question of who started it as if Trump started it. No, Democrats are the OG election deniers. And what you're seeing here, again, is their hypocrisy on full display. These are the same people who boohoo, whined, and cried, calling anybody who questioned the outcome of the 2020 election insurrectionists, you're a threat to democracy, you're a threat to this country, all that. Now, all of a sudden, again, when it looks like they're not going to do very well in the midterms, well, the midterms are rigged. I mean, these are the same people. Let's be real. Blue Anon, their conspiracy theories floating around in Blue Anon spaces that the 2024 election was rigged, right, in favor of Trump. That Elon Musk using Starlink rigged the voting machines in favor of Trump.
Were the results of the 2024 presidential election valid, or was it rigged? Rockland County in New York seems to think so. Do you guys remember when President Trump said this?
Very effective. And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon.
Rockland County, which is where my mother lives, is a county within the New York Metro, has filed a lawsuit to recount the votes of all of the citizens in Rockland County of the 2024 election cycle. Questioning the accuracy of the 2024 presidential and Senate election results in Rockland County, New York, lawsuit brought by Smart Legislation seeks a full hand recount of the presidential and U.S. Senate races in Rockland County. Smart Legislation is the action arm of Smart Elections, which is the lead plaintiff in the case. Both organizations are dedicated to ensuring fair and accurate elections. Smart Election was quoted by saying, "There's clear evidence that the Senate results are incorrect, and there are statistical indications that the presidential results are highly unlikely. If the results are incorrect, it is a violation of constitutional rights of each person who voted in the 2024 Rockland County general election. The best way to determine whether this is legit is to recount the ballots in a full public hand recount."
The only power a regular American person has is to go to the polls. They can keep their eyes open and see problems and be alert and educated
Why is
and
Trump
vote at the
sending
same time.
in election monitors to California? Why is Trump sending people there?
But I think it's one thing for pundits and for spectators to say, I'm concerned that there will be free and fair elections again. I think it is wholly irresponsible for the governor of the most populous state, who, by the way, oversees elections in his own state. He oversees the cybersecurity infrastructure. He oversees the Secretary of State, down to poll watchers, to election workers. Gavin Newsom has a lot of power in this.
Why are there federal monitors, though?
He could at minimum say, I can promise you California will have a free and fair election, and I'll work with every governor to make sure that there's no efforts to undermine them. But that's not what he's doing.
How does he do that when Donald Trump is sending federal monitors
because
into
he's the chief executive of the state. Monitors, we need to know what that means. I do think it's an alarming
sound
phrase.
Like election intimidators?
But you also have a governor with his own authorities in the state. And for him to say this, it reminds me very much of the gerrymandering debate. So everyone is angry when Texas redraws congressional maps to add more Republican seats. They're cheating. It's rigged. So California responds by cheating and rigging it by adding more Democratic seats.
What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to just let them do it?
No, you're supposed to safely secure your elections and tell your voters you can trust voting in California.
Yeah, what do you do with that?
What are you supposed to do with that?
You should challenge it at the state level. Former Governor Schwarzenegger talked about this. There's a process to do it in California. There's a process in Texas. Change the laws so that people cannot do.
You can't change the laws when the Republicans are in charge in Texas. Can't do it.
Well, the way that you stop the gerrymandering is that Democrats need to stop gerrymandering, because the only reason that Republicans are redistricting is because Democrats have rigged their states so much that, again, our Congress is not appropriated correctly, right? I mean, you have more Democrats in Congress that should be in Congress because of the census being incorrect, right? So we're already being robbed of seats there. Democrats have gerrymandered their states so much that they can't even gerrymander no more, right? Like, let's be real. They can't even squeeze out any more seats because they've already gerrymandered their states. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what you have here, again, is the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party once again being put on full display. You cannot come out here and lecture people about how dangerous it is to claim that elections are rigged or that they're stolen, and then now you're coming out here and telling people that the elections are rigged and stolen because you are not doing as well as you feel like you should be doing going into the midterms. Let's be real. If Democrats were up right now, right? If Democrats were up in regards to their approval and they were up in regards to their chances of winning the midterms, they wouldn't be claiming that it's rigged. They're only claiming that it's rigged because there's a chance they could lose, which would be an absolute disaster because of the fact that, historically speaking, the party that's not in power does really well during the midterms, right? So Democrats right now are not doing as well as they were in 2017 and 2018 going into the midterms there, where, again, they did have a great midterm election back then. This time around, not so much, right? They're doing horribly right now. And there's a good chance they could lose. They could actually lose, that Republicans could retain the Senate. I mean, as of right now, I think there's like a 70-80% chance that Republicans are going to retain the Senate. And the House is essentially a coin flip, right? So, yeah, Democrats, if they don't win back the House, it's over for them. And they know it's over for them. And because of that, that's why they're claiming that the elections are rigged. Okay, they're already building in the excuse for losing. Okay, that's what they're doing. But again, when Republicans or conservatives make claims about the election, threaten democracy, put them in jail, censor them, right? That's what happened to us. Okay, but Democrats do it. Hey, well, hey, is rigged, right? Even though they have no evidence whatsoever, because Trump is not sending election monitors to California and these blue states to rig the election or to intimidate people, right? They're sending election monitors to make sure that Democrats are not up to any funny business, right? Like, for example, when you talk about illegal immigrants trying to vote, right? If you have people who are there, like, for example, if ICE is there, right? Illegals are going to be less likely to vote. Now, again, Democrats claim that that's not happening, but I mean, we have evidence and proof that illegals are registered to vote and they are probably voting in our elections. So, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the federal government sending election monitors because ultimately today, it's not like they're going to stop anybody who actually is eligible to vote and should be voting from voting. If anything, again, they intimidate people who should be voting from voting, right? Which means that they probably shouldn't be, again, voting, right? They should not be voting if they're not going to show up because of, federal officers being there to make sure that the elections are being conducted properly, right? So again, that's not rigging the election. That's actually making sure that the election is not rigged, okay? And in states like California, who clearly don't follow the rules, okay, yeah, I think it's important to have some oversight on who they're letting vote in their elections. Because again, we know they want as many people as possible to vote, including illegals. So, again, it's just fascinating how Democrats go full blue and on when they don't get their way, when they are on course to lose, right? The first thing they want to do is boohoo, whine, and cry about it being rigged, right? They're basically preparing the voters in advance for the fact that, hey, they're probably not going to do as well as they should do going into the midterm. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.